Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the southeast. As the crisis in Ukraine deepens, we're live tonight in Thanet, where volunteers are shipping medical supplies out as politicians call for refugees to be allowed in.
What we're doing, we send out small shoeboxes with everything you would need, and that means that we can get insulin to Poland and we can get it into the country where people need it.
Family holding on to hope. 4 years since 30-year-old Georgina was last seen in Worthing.
Also tonight, looming large, Margot's woven wonders on their way from Kent to the Royal Opera House.
And sunshine overhead for today, but a bit of a chilly feel. We have though got some changes in store as we head through this week. I'll be here with your full forecast.
Good evening. The number of refugees fleeing war-ravaged Ukraine is now believed to be well over 1.5 million. Most of them women and children, the men left at home to fight. And there are calls tonight for emergency powers to be introduced, allowing the military to launch humanitarian medical aid flights from the disused Manston airport and allowing some of those refugees in.
One of the hangars there is already filling with supplies. Organisers say flights would mean they could be where they are most needed within hours if transported by air.
Well, the airport hasn't been operational for 8 years, but MP Sir Roger Gale says Manston can and must play its part in the biggest refugee crisis since World War II. Sarah Saunders has been at the site all day as supplies arrive. Sarah, what kind of things are being collected?
Well, they're gathering everything here from glucose tablets to blood testing kits to life-saving insulin. And they're trying to get that stock in, turned around and organised and back out as quickly as possible because they are in touch with people in Ukraine and outside who say they have just days of those vital supplies left. So all day long, volunteers, community organisers have been working hard.
There's a constant stream of vans filled with vital diabetic medical aid arriving in this hangar at the former Manston airport. Volunteers are sorting, collating and packing it before it's sent towards Ukraine, where medicines are becoming hard to access.
Charlie, what kind of stuff is coming through here?
In short, high impact, high value aid. So this is day one in our hangar. We're just sorting through inbound donations. We've got about 900 more boxes on the way to sort through, and that will go out targeted based on requests from Ukraine. So we're not just sending aid somewhere and hoping that it gets to the right person. We can get it into the country where people need it.
This medicine is being taken out by truck, but there are calls for the government to initiate emergency legislation so that the airfield here can be used for the first time in 8 years to fly out humanitarian aid by the military to where it's needed. So it hasn't been an operational airport since 2014. Is it really feasible that we could see humanitarian aid flying out from here?
It is. We need Michael Gove and Ben Wallace to come together and activate what's called MACA, which is a military aid to civil authorities. That would then have the Ministry of Defence, probably the RAF, come onto site and set up exactly what's needed to operate aircraft from here with time-sensitive and critical aid for these people in Eastern Europe.
North Thanet MP Roger Gale believes as well as taking aid out, the airport could be used to bring those escaping the fighting in.
There is a Home Office facility at Manston Barracks that I'm told is capable of processing 1,000 illegal migrants a day. Well, if we can process 1,000 illegal migrants a day, we can process 1,000 refugees from war a day. And my point is we should be doing it. We're 11 days into this war now.
A government spokesperson said they're grateful to those who have come forward with offers of support and continue to work with them as a matter of urgency. For now, whether by road or by air, vital medicine is leaving here for those in need in Ukraine.
Well, they've gone home now, but all day those volunteers were sorting, collating, packaging, and already new supplies have arrived for them to start working on tomorrow. And still here is organiser Charlie. Charlie, what a long day. What time did you arrive?
I've been here since 6 in the morning.
You must be dead on your feet. Now, you agree that this is going out by road, but it might be better served going out by air?
Absolutely. It takes about 48 hours, if you're lucky, for medical aid to get to Ukraine or Poland by road. But from Manston Airport, it'd take 5 hours. So For people that are in urgent need of trauma medication, 43 hours is life or death, and that's what you save with a plane.
Now, Charlie, this is not unsolicited aid. You are dealing with Ukrainian authorities and it's going to specific people, and I gather that's really important at the moment.
Yeah, so there's a logistics crisis at the moment in Polish border territories, in Romania, Moldova, and in western Ukraine, because the amount of spare and general aid that's been donated has clogged up warehouses. So it's important that we only send what is actually needed and not surplus aid. Otherwise, the people that need it can't get it.
Now, you are dealing with Ukrainian officials. You are dealing with hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of medical aid, but you are a volunteer. Charlie, who are you?
I'm just a 25-year-old from Deal. I'm very lucky. I have a certain blend of autism and ADHD, so I can work at this pace and this scale and only get 4 hours sleep.
Well,
and still be alive.
And still just be alive. Keep going for us, Charlie. Charlie is one of the many ordinary but exceptional, normal local people who have been creating these incredible aid efforts, and goods will be going out from here direct to the people who need it over the coming days.
Incredible work, as you say. Sarah Saunders at Manston Airport. Many thanks.
The government are clearly under pressure tonight to make it much easier for refugees to come to the UK. Let's go live to our political correspondent Phil Hornby in Westminster. Phil, what are the government saying tonight?
Well, they're saying they're doing what they can and they will do more. But as you say, there is a lot of frustration. We heard it from Sir Roger Gale in Sarah's report there. Frustration about red tape, about bureaucracy, about delay when we're facing a situation that is so clearly really urgent. The Prime Minister today insisted that the government are being generous to the people of Ukraine.
We're going to have to respond to that, and we will. We've always been very generous in the way we respond to people fleeing war zones, and no country in Europe has done more to settle vulnerable people since 2015 than the UK. What we won't do is have a system where people can come into the UK without any checks or any controls at all. I don't think that is the right approach.
The Home Secretary revealed today that British officials are being sent to what she described as the route to Calais to deal with visa applications from people who want to come to Britain. And tonight, nervously, government eyes are looking at northern France because there are real fears that hundreds or maybe thousands of refugees could head to Calais wanting to come to the UK, and we all know what problems that can lead to.
There are people smuggling gangs roaming around Calais, and not only that, Mr. Speaker, I have been on calls over the weekend and today, prior to coming to this House, where human trafficking cases are now manifesting at the border, and it is absolutely right that we have the right process in place to check people and to safeguard people.
And Phil, there's been pressure on a former South East MP to give up his links with Russia.
Yes, this is Greg Barker, the former Conservative MP for Bexhill and Battle, Lord Barker as he is now. We understand he's resigned as the chairman of a mining company called EN Plus, a company which is part owned by one of the oligarchs that was sanctioned by the government recently, and government ministers have been urging Lord Barker to cut his ties with Russia. And coincidentally, MPs are in for a long night tonight discussing toughening the laws to crack down further on the Russian oligarchs in Britain.
Phil Hornby, thank you very much.
On to the day's other news, and a vigil has been held to mark the 4th anniversary of the disappearance of a mother of 2 from Worthing in Sussex.
It's believed 30-year-old Georgina Gasala was last seen on CCTV in the town centre. Her family and friends have been carrying out an ongoing campaign to find out what happened to her. Chloe Oliver has more.
Keeping Georgina's name at the forefront of people's minds, pink ribbons and badges are handed out to passers-by. Friends and family gather on the road where Georgina Gasala was last seen on the morning of the 7th of March 2018. These CCTV stills, taken inside an off-licence on Clifton Road, are believed to be the last known sighting of Georgina. She hasn't been seen or heard from since. Despite thousands of reports and statements, hundreds of exhibits and 90 reported sightings, police are still no closer to finding Georgina.
In the beginning, when it was 1 year, 6 months, it doesn't feel as bad, but you never think you're going to be at this stage in 4 years. And I don't feel hopeful about anything. Because I look after Georgina's boys. I can't be miserable all the time. They don't think at all that Mummy's never going to come home. They're expecting her to come home, and that's quite hard.
To try and bring her family some much needed closure, Andrea has welcomed the help of one of the country's top investigative journalists, Donal McIntyre. Today, he released a podcast investigating Georgina's disappearance.
A mother's journey to uncover the truth.
I want answers. I want to find out what happened.
The podcast, over 10 episodes, really tracks a family's struggle to find a missing loved one. Set up their own incident room on last year's anniversary of her disappearance, and to see the public come out and the community give the site of the incident room free, and the generosity of the public here in Worthing, and the support the family has got from the community has been outstanding.
Sussex police say they haven't given up on looking for Georgina. They still have a dedicated team of officers who are committed to finding out what happened and giving her family the answers they deserve. Andrea turned 60 2 weeks ago, and she says she will carry on pushing for answers into Georgina's disappearance. Her biggest fear, she says, is dying without knowing what happened to her daughter. Chloe Oliver, ITV News, Worthing.
2 drug dealers from Folkestone have been jailed after the phone encryption software they were using was infiltrated by the National Crime Agency. Jack Daniels and Andrew Talbot, both 32, conspired to supply large amounts of cocaine and ketamine. They've been sentenced to a total of 12 years between them.
Plans to charge drivers from outside Greater London a daily levy of over £5 for crossing the boundary appear to have been scrapped. Motorists from Kent and Sussex will not now face the additional penalty to help tackle congestion. However, the capital's mayor, Sadiq Khan, says he wants to expand London's ultra-low emission zone.
South Eastern have announced a £1.5 million investment in facilities across Kent and into London. Modernised waiting rooms, seating and car park lighting will be rolled out at a number of stations, as well as hundreds of thousands of pounds spent on CCTV to deter vandals at depots and sidings.
Brighton campaigners are launching a new Food Waste Action Week initiatives. The city's food partnership is among those taking part. Around 30% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions come from food production, yet a third of all the food produced is uneaten.
You're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Thank you so much for watching us. Coming up, turning snow into metal. Millie wins GB's first medal at the Winter Paralympics.
And how Margot is turning fabric into music, from her home in Kent to the Royal Opera House in London.
And you can find more on today's top stories from across the South East by going to our website itv.com/Meridian. And remember, you can also follow us. That's on Facebook and on Twitter.
The ITV Evening News will, of course, be coming up after us, but not quite as you've seen it before.
No, from tonight it'll run for an hour each and every weeknight. And here's Mary Nightingale with the details.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening, Miss.
The ITV Evening News has been a constant presence on our TV screens for more than 2 decades, broadcasting live into millions of homes every day.
3, 2, Staying on 1.
Now we're getting even bigger. We've expanded our teams across the UK.
It's a busy and bustling red carpet.
The winds have been really picking up here since that amber warning came into place.
Today has been nothing short of a disaster for the DUP.
There'll be more of the investigative journalism we do best.
This is all mould.
This is all mould.
This fictional party was a business meeting.
And our correspondents will be live across the country and around the world. We'll have more of the stories that make you smile.
Was that a good surprise? Yeah. I can stay here now.
And we're bringing the national weather into the programme too, both in the studio and out on location.
Inside those doors is a huge studio, which I'm still trying to get to grips with. I can't wait to show it off.
Thank you very much indeed for that.
So that's what's coming up, and it all starts tonight here on ITV. We'll see you there.
And I'm pleased to say joining us now from the Network News studio, preparing for the programme, is a very busy presenter, Mary Nightingale. Mary, how big a moment is this, first of all, for ITV News?
Well, Sangeeta, it's lovely to be talking to you. Thank you for having me. I think it's a really important moment for ITV News. I mean, for me personally, obviously it's very exciting because I'm going to be doing an hour every evening, but it's fantastic for the whole team here in London. But more importantly, I think it's really important for ITV right throughout the country, because we've got all of the regions that we want to collaborate with more closely. We spent lots of money, the biggest investment in jobs that ITV News have done in 20 years, and we're hiring new people and we're putting new resources in place, and I think it's going to be very, very positive.
So tell us, what can the viewers expect to see that's different from the current evening news on ITV?
Well, Sangeeta, we get a bit jumpy when people say the word different, because we don't want it to be different. That's the first thing, because we are doing something right. We have good viewers. We've had more viewers in the last 6 years than we've had for a long, long time, about 3-4 million every night. And so we feel like we must be doing something right. People like what they're getting with the evening news. So I think probably our way of looking at it is just doing more of the things that we think our viewers enjoy. So more in-depth investigations, more local stories. You know, when I talk about collaboration, I'm thinking, for example, in the recent storms that hit your region particularly badly, we could collaborate with you at Meridian, and we could be using some of your resources, using some of your people. And so I hope for Meridian viewers, they will be pleased to see some really familiar faces from your area on the network news.
Well, we always work closely, so this will be even better. But Mary, will we have a chance to showcase more of our journalism? Because ITV News has really been leading the way with the news agenda recently.
Yes, it has. We're very proud of what our reporters have been doing. I'm thinking Paul Brand and his Partygate staff, Dan Hewitt's amazing stories, amazing real stories of the appalling housing that people are enduring, particularly in London, but out around the country as well. And yes, what we want to do, and particularly at 7 o'clock every evening, we're going to have a special spot where we'll be bringing you an extended report, which you will not see on any other news programme, on any other channel. And it's going to be special for the evening news. And that's why we really want to bring in specialist reporters from the regions, from Meridian. You know, if you have a big story, we want to be able to showcase that and spread it to a much wider audience. So there's lots of opportunities, I think.
And Mary, briefly, we all care about the weather. That's going to play a big role in the programme?
Yes, it really is. As you say, I think we're all obsessed with the weather, aren't we, Sangeeta? It's the British disease in a way, but we realise that the weather actually is a proper news story now, you know, with climate change and global warming and the increasing, I just mentioned the storms that we've all been enduring. I think weather is no longer a nice to have at the end of the news. We're bringing it into the programme, and to that end, I'm going to have Alex Beresford with me in the studio, which is really exciting. He's a great guy. Those of you who watch GMB will be very familiar with him from there. He's going to be in the studio with me every night. We're going to be talking about the big weather stories that are current, and also, particularly in the summer months, he's going to be out and about, possibly even in your region, so look out for him.
Mary, not long to go now. All the very best for tonight. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you. Thanks, Sangeeta.
Now, she spent the last 2 decades weaving her magic with instantly recognisable designs on everything from artworks to bath towels. Many bear the names of towns around the region.
And the latest commission for Whitstable textile artist Margot Selby has seen her work in one of the most famous venues in the country, the Royal Opera House. Tony Green found out how it all happened.
Rapidly becoming a household name, Margot Selby is a woven textile artist who's keen to collaborate. she's worked with everyone from the Tate Gallery to John Lewis. A recent partnership with the Royal Opera House was such a success that she's back with a new collection based on its Covent Garden home and its latest productions. A dream project with inspiration in every corner of the building.
Well, actually, the process of weaving and architecture are very similar. You know, they're both made from different components and built from the bottom up. And so I often look at architecture when I'm developing my work. So I spent a day here taking photographs of both the old building and the new building. And so I wanted to capture a textile which incorporated elements from both of the auditoriums and brought it all together.
Back at her studio in Whitstable, hand weaving is at the core of Margot's work.
What I try to do when I'm designing a cloth, I'll do yarn windings to get colour combinations. Then I work a lot with graphic design programmes. So because this is a jacquard fabric and I wanted to really get that kind of graphic pattern, I use Illustrator. I almost like brainstorm, almost like a mood board of pattern and shape. The patterns might start in black and white, but then I'll apply a weave which I know might put red on the surface and then a heat shrink fibre on the back.
That work has culminated in 2 new scarves sold in the Opera House shop.
Having collaborations that tell stories, that echo the craft that's sitting in this building are really important to us. So Margot was a natural partner. It evolved naturally. We started with Bohème and with Carmen, and it's grown into now, where we are today, Rigoletto, which I'm actually wearing, which is an opera on our stage at the moment, and Swan Lake, which is obviously a much-loved classic. It speaks. It just makes sense when people come into the building and they want to go home with a little bit of something as well as the experience they have with the show.
The creative collaboration has turned the fabric of the building into fashion. Covent Garden captured by a Kent designer. Tony Green, ITV News.
I like that, Covent Garden captured by a Kent designer. Very nice, Tony Green. Holly is with us now. Holly, it has been so cold today.
It has, hasn't it? Yeah, the sun's been out, which has been lovely, but we've had temperatures of just 5 or 6 for some of us and a cold wind. But it will get milder later in the week. I'll tell you more about that in just a second. First, I want to tell you what's been going on in space, because on Friday, we think a piece of rocket collided with the moon.
Sounds worrying.
Well, it's unusual, certainly. It's actually the first time that we've known something is going to collide with the moon that hasn't been supposed to collide with the moon and been able to track it. But this rocket is just one piece of around 36,500 bits of what's called space junk, which orbit the Earth. And they're not officially monitored by anyone, so they're effectively kept an eye on by a team of volunteers. And one of these volunteers lives in the Meridian region, and he is a man called Peter Birtwistle. And back in January, he managed to capture these images of the rocket. So you can see it here, hopefully. It's that little moving light you can see there. Yes. And there's an astronomer in America called Bill Gray who took these images and other images that came in from other volunteers and managed to work out that this rocket was going to collide with the moon on Friday, which we think it did. But we don't have any images of it just yet because we haven't got any satellites currently around the dark side of the moon, which is where this collision took place. But we think there is now a little mini new crater on the far side of the moon.
Wow.
Fascinating. Yes. Holly, thank you very much. Well, it is going to get a bit milder, we believe. Here's the details with Holly.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
A bright day, but a cold wind around as we head into the night tonight. It's going to be a chilly one, frosty in places. Tomorrow, some more sunshine to be had, but again, we have got quite a breezy, brisk wind. It is though turning a touch milder, and that's a theme that continues into the coming days. So at the moment, we're in a cold air mass, but as we pick up more of a southerly, we find that milder air feeding in. We have got a weather front heading our way later tomorrow, but it's not going to do very much. It might just bring a little bit of showery rain, perhaps. In general, though, we're just going to see, again, a little bit of squeezing the ice bars into the coming days, indicating those breezy winds, but that wind feeding up this mild air. Out there at the moment then, well, largely starry skies, and that's probably the way it will stay as we head through the night tonight. We have still got this southeasterly breeze that may well keep coastal areas frost-free, but venture inland and many of us dropping down to around about freezing. So we push into tomorrow. It's a cold start, frosty for many, but on the flip side, lovely and bright. So lots of sunshine as we push through the day tomorrow. You can see a little bit more cloud just drifting in later ahead of that weather front. As I say, you could possibly see a shower later, but mostly it is a dry story. Still a brisk wind, but a little bit milder.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
ITV's current affairs programme On Assignment airs tonight. Here's Raggy Omar.
Tonight, On Assignment, Robert Moore is in Philadelphia, exploring the reasons behind the surge in gun violence seen across the whole of the US, visiting the communities most affected. Turkey has long welcomed refugees, but is now taking a stricter approach to those seeking asylum. Many people, including those fleeing Afghanistan, are facing treacherous conditions, choosing to cross the border illegally in attempts to circumnavigate the system. Anushka Astana is on the border meeting those protecting it and those risking everything to get across. And finally, I'm in Somaliland visiting the ancient cave paintings of Lasgale and finding out how they play into the self-declared state's ambitions for international recognition. That's On Assignment tonight at 10:45.
Next, it's the ITV Evening News Hour with Mary Nightingale.
From the team here, thanks for watching. We'll see you at 6 tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.